Where are you at today, Kid Denny?
Today I'm at my house.
Okay.
Trying to find a quiet place, and it's way more challenging than I expected. My office has a lot going on, and if I'm there, it's not quiet. Found at Douglas, I got bumped around too much, so no one's supposed to be home except dogs. So I think it's safe here. I can focus.
All right, it appears we are live again on YouTube. So whatever happened with our YouTube feed seems to have been restored. So we're on item 3 in the agenda, and starting with the staff report. And just a really quick overview. I know, Rick, this is your second year on the compensation committee. Denny, you've done this a few times, and Doreen, this is your first year. And this is a requirement by statute under ORS 204.112 that the county convenes a compensation committee. And we do this every year in conjunction with the budget committee process. And typically I have our HR manager, typically is the person who is here and presents the elected officials salary survey that HR prepares every year. Unfortunately, she's out on an extended leave, and so as a result, I'm going to be presenting it, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try doing the share screen here. And I emailed each of you a copy of it this morning.
Got it.
Yep.
And that's the grid, right? Yeah.
All right. Can everyone see that okay?
You could move it to the, can you move it to our left a little? Because the Yamhill's just kind of blocked out a little bit of the writing part.
Let's see, let me try something. Oh, I love Zoom.
That's okay. Just put it back up the way you had it.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, it's hard because I can't necessarily see what's being displayed, and I'm trying. Did that make a difference?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming they're similar, but you know, we're all on the right-hand side.
That's right.
At the top, you can choose the different, like, who's actually speaking and how it's done. If you click on one or just one person, that's what I just did, and now I can at least see 99 most of it. I think
that's good. Thank you.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the data that we've collected. Each year we've used these same comparable counties. We send out questionnaires and we get information back from each of the counties on the salaries and the roll-ups and benefit information. So this information is to help guide your decisions on what you're going to ultimately decide as a recommendation that is presented to the budget committee and then acted on during deliberations later this morning. So the first one is the first slide is the commissioners. So you'll see that we have Benton, Columbia, Douglas, Josephine, Lynn, Marion, and Polk County as the counties that we have used historically. And just to navigate, we provide county population, the form of government, your County governments are either home rule or general law, and that has to do whether or not they've adopted a charter. We're a general law county. You have the county adopted budgets, total FTE counts, whether they're elected or appointed. You know, you'll see that in later slides that for some positions that it might not be an elected position, it may be appointed, depending on the jurisdiction. Then you have the information about last salary increases. This is a running tally that we have each year. We prepare this report, but you'll see the last time that the salary was increased. And then below that, you'll see a change in salary percentage since the last time. And immediately below that line, then you're going to see a comparison where Yamhill County, where the salaries are in comparison with those other jurisdictions. And then below are notes that kind of highlight what the benefit package looks like. We don't necessarily, we don't do a total compensation number, because each county and their roll-ups and programs and what's made available varies greatly. And sometimes there may be multiple options available, like for a health plan or things like that. It makes it really difficult to do, to provide just a straight number on a total compensation analysis. And so this information is really additional information to give you a general idea what some of the benefit packages look like that's also offered in addition to the salary. But for the most part, recommendations and usually what the committee will act on is that salary amount. On the first slide here, now I'll get into more of the details, you'll see Yamhill counties in that last column to the right. And what you're seeing there is the salary that was approved for the commissioner's position. It's not each commissioner salary. Historically, the Yamhill County has set a single salary, and then it's up to that individual commissioner if whether or not they're going to elect to take the increase. If it's been increased, there has been commissioners over the years that have declined the increase, and their salary may be one of the earlier amounts, but that's because they notified us and elected not to take the pay increase. But any new elected official that comes into office, when we set them up into the payroll system, when a new elected official, we start off by what the compensation committee has approved and eventually what the full budget committee approves as part of that action. So in looking at the commissioners, you can see sometimes it can vary because some counties have set commissioner salaries based on which term of office they're in. We don't do that. We don't have a tiered rate. I want to say it was Benton County in particular, and Josephine County also has a rate that's based on tenure or how many terms they're in office. So they may have one term as entry-level rate. They're in their second term, they have a second term rate. And if they're in their third term in office, a third tier. And what we did is, for comparison, we typically use that middle tier for the comparisons. So as you can see, for the commissioner salaries, if you look at, I don't know if you can see where I'm highlighting here, you'll see that most of the counties were below the market, except for Polk County we're slightly ahead of Polk County when it comes to salaries. Any questions on the commissioners?
None here.
Okay, I'm gonna move to the next page. So the next one, this is the the assessor. So again, all the same information. And I'm just going to highlight again, if you look at the comparison, this one, it's a little more, the assessor's salary is behind Benton County and Lynn County and Marion County, but ahead of Polk, Josephine, Douglas, and Columbia. So there's some variables with that. The one thing that I would call out that is a little unique, that can vary from county to county when it comes to the assessor's position, is if you look down in the comments section, not every county assessor also acts as the county tax collector. Derek Wharf is both the assessor and the county tax collector. And you will see that Lynn County is also set up in a similar fashion. Otherwise, the other assessors, based on the surveys information that we collected, the other assessors do not have that tax collector additional responsibility. And then some additional notes just to highlight, the assessor has received some increases in the past, but did not receive an increase in 2020. So any questions on the assessor? Okay. Next is the treasurer, and this is another one that it can vary because some counties, the treasurer position can vary from county to county. As you can see in Benton County, the treasurer position is a function of their CFO. In Columbia County, their treasurer is the finance director. So both of those, I believe, are both appointed positions. Douglas County, Josephine, Lynn, Marion, Polk, and Yamhill are all elected. And our county, it's a part-time position, and you'll see when we build the budget that we do associate an FTE for calculation purposes, but that FTE is not used to determine the salary. The $30,000 salary that was set for the treasurer in Yamhill County was not calculated based on FTE. That was used as a means to determine that the position was years ago set to be a part-time elected position. So, and it's really up to the, so the salary that was set by previous compensation committees was reflecting that they thought the duties were part-time. What are the functions that the treasurer does here is more part-time, but it's completely up to the treasurer as an elected position on how many hours they work within a week.
Ken, do we have an idea what part-time, describe it to us? Is it 2 days a week, 3 days a week? How many hours? Part-time can mean a lot of things, so just want to clarify that.
Yeah, and it does, and I agree. That's some of the challenges that we have with this, because when this was originally set up, it really wasn't set up or determined to be part-time like we would do for an employee. That the schedule, we believe, though, we have a part-time employee who works 24 hours a week, so, and the schedule is usually 3 8-hour days. That wasn't really used to determine the salary. It was an estimate based on, because the primary function that the treasurer does for Yamhill County is handling our investment portfolio. And I know Chris is in the panel, and she's new coming into office. She may be able to explain, what she envisions or what her workload or schedule may look like. But that determination that it's less than full-time, because a lot of the day-to-day functions that maybe a full-time treasurer does in, I'm trying to look at Josephine County, you can see in Josephine County, that position also acts as the tax collector for Josephine County. So instead of it being in the assessor, it's in the treasurer's responsibilities in Josephine County. And
That
so,
complicates things.
so it can vary a little bit.
Sure.
So this is always a tough one.
Just wanted- Mhm.
And so you can see that it was set at 30,000, and that's what the salary, I believe that was last increased in 2018. So
So it says down below that it was based on 0.25 FTE in 20 prior to 2013, but
right.
well, 24 hours a week would be a little more than half. I guess I'm just wondering how to best determine, should it remain at that? How's it been calculated on that premise?
That's a good question, because I will say when all these actions occurred, that was before my time. I was with the county, but in a much different role. And I know that there was a lot of discussion and a lot of information that was pulled to look at on handling the investment portfolio, doing the distributions, and also the cash flow reports that the treasurer does. It was determined that that wasn't necessarily a full-time position, and they use those numbers, that FTE, just to apply it to the then salary that was set to come up with a ballpark number on what they would set for the salary. And then it's been adjusted over the years since 2017. There's been several requests that were processed and increased. You can see in 2017, the salary was 27,000, and the committee in 2018 determined that the then treasurer looks good, what you're doing, we're going to increase it to 30,000. And that was really the justification or reason for adjusting that. This is a tough one because it's not necessarily like how we do a lot of employee style compensation analysis. So we set a salary, and I'm not sure if Treasurer Bledsoe is going to have a request this morning, or may want to have more discussion about it. So,
Okay, thank you.
Next is the county clerk. And if you take a look at that, and again, I'll highlight, you can see, for the most part, the county clerk is behind as far as salary goes, except for Douglas County. And the last increase that was approved was last year in March. Any questions on the clerk?
No.
In the previous year, the clerk declined his increase. Is that right? Because I noticed that in the notes from last year. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So the 79 was declined last year?
It's another one of those, it's similar to like the commissioners, that the compensation committee sets the salary, and then it's up to the elected official if they elect to take that increase or not.
Okay, so it sits here, but he's not currently collecting the 79.
I'd have to go into the payroll system and verify that. I don't know off the top of my head. And
Okay.
And I believe Brian's joining us as well, and he may be able to answer that question.
Okay.
Next is the sheriff. Statute simplified the decision-making on the sheriff's salary, because it's defined per statute that the sheriff's salary shall be fixed in an amount which is not less than that for any member of the sheriff's department. So what you're going to see down below is we provide we do an analysis of the 3 next highest paid positions in the sheriff's office, which is typically the 3 captains. And then with the salary adjustments that go into effect on July 1, you will see that we use the patrol captain's salary and what the increases and the additional incentives that they also get under as part of their employment agreement. And this provides that if you give the sheriff the same 8.5% increase, what that salary is going to be, and you will see it confirms that it's an amount that's more than his highest paid deputy in his office. So we're compliant with the statute if that's what the committee recommends approving.
It says captains are topped out and will not receive a step increase. They will
Mhm.
receive a market increase on 7.9 of
Yep.
6 and COLA of 2.5.
Yep. We've had in the past where we've had multiple captains and they've been at various steps within the range, the salary range on the salary matrix. And that's why this is a holdover from notes. But right now, all the captains are currently have sufficient seniority where they're all tapped out or topped out. So there's no additional step increases coming. So it's simply that COLA and market adjustment.
Okay.
Any questions on the sheriffs?
Can I ask one? This is probably, I know it's $100, but what is WEBA?
I'm looking for that.
In other benefits, it says $100 VEBA. I'm not familiar.
That's VEBA. That's a variable medical. It's like a medical health savings account, but it's an employer contribution that's part of the medical plan. So the county makes a monthly contribution to this employee's account. It's an employer contribution, and they can use it for any other medical or eligible expenses as part of their health plan.
Okay, so it's a monthly item?
Yes.
Okay.
And like an HSA.
Yep.
Okay.
Oops. Darn it. Okay. Next is the district attorney. So the district attorney is a little bit different. So the actual annual salary is not set by the committee. It is set by the state. The district attorney is a state employee and represents the state. And the annual salary of district attorneys across the state is based on the population of the county. So if you're in a county that's less than 100,000, your salary is at I'm looking for the numbers, is set at one rate. And if you're over 100,000, it's set at another rate, a higher rate. So that's completely controlled by the state. And even obtaining this information is always a challenge when we're doing the surveys. The one thing that I would highlight is what the committee will provide a recommendation on, and where we will get requests is, in addition to that amount, individual counties and jurisdictions can pay a stipend that's in addition to the salary. Again, all of the benefits, the base salary is all through the state, and the county's action on the compensation committee is the stipend. And there was an increase approved to the stipend last year. So what you're seeing, the stipend is $25,694 is what Brad gets directly from the county, which is in addition to the salary that is paid directly from the state.
But the total salary means that those two numbers together?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a methodology or a thought process that's been employed on that in the past?
The stipend has been in place for quite some time. This is another one that goes back before my time. I think when it was originally implemented, there was a recognition that when Yamhill County years ago was just below the 100,000, but really close to that population mark, realizing that he was dealing with the same level of caseload and the same activities that those jurisdictions that were over 100,000. And I believe that's what the original number may have been based on, was to make the stipend enough to be equivalent to if we were a population over 100,000. And then once Yamhill County continued to grow and went over the 100,000, we continued to provide that additional stipend in recognition of, you know, the years of service that Brad's been the DA, and then also looking at the comparisons with some of the other similarly sized jurisdictions and so on.
Okay, and I can't point to it, but somewhere in here it said that this was Brad's last year in the documents that were in the binder. Where did I read that?
This was approved last year. The current amount was recommended and approved by both.
Yeah, it was in the meeting minutes.
Yeah.
It said last year that he was requesting 6,000 increase. He has not made previous requests for stipend or salary increase since 2008. He would like to bring the district attorney salary up to a competitive base salary for the next DA, as this is Mr. Berry's last term.
That's going to be a question for Brad.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure where Brad may be on that, on if this is his last term or not.
Okay.
And that completes the staff report, and just given an overview. Again, this information is, you know, we collect this information and make it available to you so you can take a look at it and help prepare your recommendations for later in the meeting. Any questions?
Not yet.
All right, I'm going to stop the share. So I'm back. All right. So that concludes the staff report portion of the agenda. So next is the public comment, and we're looking at the attendees room, and I do see that the assessor, oh, Mary came in. Mary got.
I can only show up when Carrie Hinton decides that it's allowable to show up. Anyway, thank you all. No, I would just like to say what I say every year, and that is I've elected not to take the raises that have been offered. And I think that I do that for one simple reason, is when I assumed this position, I knew what the salary was. I see that labor costs have gone through the roof, and that they are a significant percentage of the county budget. And when I look at those increases over the years, I see how onerous it is, and I see that that's not commensurate with what the private sector winds up getting in terms of benefits, retirement, insurance. Just the insurance benefits alone, that's about $30,000. And I don't know too many people in the private sector that have that luxury. So I appreciate the benefits. I appreciate the salary. I think that all of us work very hard, but I have designed this just basically to make the case that this is this is an equitable salary, and I think that it's only fair not to pile on the taxpayer. So that's why I declined the raises. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Can we discuss, we discussed earlier or yesterday about some of the budget in the commissioner's budget line was being held over for larger projects. Is that will that work that way? I'm hoping that is that Mary's wish is that on track?
There was a motorcycle that went by when you were talking, so I didn't hear a word you said.
I was just discussing, really what sticks in my head is the youth center for McMinnville. Your passion, because I share a similar one, and I work with a group, and I know that's a huge need in McMinnville, anywhere in Yamhill County, but definitely in McMinnville right now. We discussed that, taking a portion of, the benefits and the money that you guys have been given each year, that is it set up in a way that we can, or you guys can use those funds to put into something bigger like that?
Well, it's the amount of money, the $1,500 a year that I've been socking away won't make enough difference to fund a project like that. But I have been saving it because if there was a need that maybe there was a match or something, it isn't going to make a whole lot of difference. But that is a need, and we've just had so many fits and starts of trying different ways to find a way to do this youth center. And my idea was always to partner with youth outreach like the one they have in Newburgh. It's just been a wonderful program under the auspices of YCAP because they do a great job. Well, we needed a location, and we needed staff, and we needed funding, and then the pandemic, and then everything changed. So I don't think that this dream is dead. I think a lot of people really want to see it happen, but I don't see that this amount of money would be a game changer for it. It's not that much money.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just wanted to confirm that it's not a use it or lose it kind of a thing within your budget. If each year does it continue to stay in the budget to be used in the future?
Well, Ken could probably address this, but I think what's been happening is typically the commissioners will spend down on it throughout the year, but they gave me a pass and let me just hold it over.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was happening.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges in because what we do for the budget process is, for the most part, we appropriate up to a certain amount that you have spending authority to spend within a specific line, and it's really up to the commissioners if they spend that full amount. And as Commissioner Sterrett said in the past, there was intent to not spend it deliberately to allow a couple of years to build up for a contribution to that project.
Thank you.
And just so everyone knows, as far as order goes, because Carrie figured it'd probably be easier to go in the order of the slides that were presented. So we're going to start with the commissioners and we'll go through. So for the other elected officials that are in the attendees in the waiting room with their hands raised, we'll get to you in the order of the presentation.
And Compensation Committee, this is Commissioner Kula. I just wanted to express my gratitude for the compensation that you and the county provides to us. I think it's fair compensation for the work that we do every day for the citizens of Yamhill County. So thank you very much for that. And that's all I wanted to say, but I appreciate it.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had to rejoin. So this is Commissioner Burschauer. I just want to echo what Commissioner Kula and Commissioner Sterrett said. You know, this is a job of service above all. And so I do think that the compensation is more than fair. I would not support an increase to the salary. And if you guys did decide to do that, I would not take the increase. I also personally believe that PERS is a conflict of interest for elected officials. So I have opted out of PERS and am not taking PERS. And as you can see from some of the line items in our budget, that PERS is much more expensive than the other option. So I would much prefer to, if we do any increases in our particular budget, I would much prefer to send those in the direction of our wonderful executive specialists, Carrie and Carolina. But again, you know, we are grateful for this compensation. I have never worked in a job as an employee that was able to offer healthcare or retirement, not once. And I've been self-employed for the past 8 years. So, you know, all that stuff, as you guys know, falls on your shoulders, from retirement and healthcare to taxes, everything. So, and Doreen, I didn't know what Aviva was either. So it tells a lot, right? But
Yeah.
I think that's a healthy mindset for a commissioner to come in and really view this as more of an act of service. So thank you very much.
Good morning. I think I passed the gates of admission.
Good morning.
Carrie has let me in. This is her time of year to shine. She really does a great job of getting these going. Thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts on this. You know, I do appreciate what I've heard from the commissioners in terms of their, I'll call it their plight, their passion. A couple different things. There's elected positions that get in because they want to drive policy and engage in that platform. The assessor and tax collector is more an administrative function. So I look at this in terms of other counties and as comparables and that sort of thing, more so than in a vacuum, just Yamhill. So if I could, I would like to share my screen and just pull back up a couple of documents. One Ken went over, but wanted to point out some things on that document. And then another thing to share. It looks like Carrie's giving me the share screen. Okay, here we go. Let's see, I want to share this. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing what should be familiar in terms of the grid that Ken was discussing earlier. Everybody see that? I don't see people anymore. I just see the grid.
Yes, I can see it.
Or do I need to leave it over here?
There you go.
That's a little better.
Okay. So, in years past, and Denny's heard this, Rick, you may recall this from last year, but I just don't, I want to just, bring to light the idea that in Yamhill County, I am both the assessor and tax collector. And unfortunately, in this grid that's presented, all but one county, they don't have those same duties. So, and in perspective, if you, at any of those other counties, if they have they will have a tax collector also, it's compensated similar to the assessor in two different positions. So the extra duties are not just an add-on sort of a small task added to. It is legitimately two full positions combined, fortunately for our office, because we have some synergies to make that work. But when you look at that in terms of comparables, the only county we are comparable to becomes Lynn County. Lynn also, in terms of population, their FTE count, their budget, all very similar there. If you were to expand this to show counties that were tax collectors and assessors, we'd be closer to Lynn than anyone else. The counties that combine the two functions we would be notably in the 25, 30, 40% range below. So while this looks like there are some comparables we're close to, because of the consistency that's being used for who we compare ourselves to, in my particular case, there's just one there that really matters. And I say that if you look to, like, let's say the clerks, looking at the bottom of the clerk. So the clerk has a second duty for elections. All the comparables except for one are both clerk and election. So there's a little cleaner connection to when you're trying to compare to other counties, when you talk about multiple functions, multiple duties, than there is when you're talking about the assessor's position specifically. So I don't necessarily need to get into what I perceive to be the obvious here. I think we are below market for the assessor's position. In my budget, I've asked for 10% to bring it to 103. The comparable right now is 108. The other thing I want to share with the committee and those who don't know, but my office is entirely either AFSCME members or non-bargaining members that are treated the same under the AFSCME contract. And in 2020 and 2021, the Board of Commissioners approved this revised contract, or the new collective bargaining agreement. And in that bargaining agreement in 2020, effective July 1 of 2020, or July 9th, I guess it was, there was a 7% increase for part of that was market, part of that was COLA. And then if an employee was eligible for steps, they could get another 5%. So, looking at 12% there for 2020 for some employees, but a minimum of 7. And then this coming year, there'll be a 2% market increase and a 1% COLA for 3%. And if you have steps available, again, those will be available. The reason I share that is to demonstrate that there was a conscious effort made and approved through the board to bring our wage range scale salaries more into market. What I'm asking for is in line with that. What I'm asking for is in line with our only comparable at Lynn. And that's sort of the reasoning behind the 10% in the budget. And it's in there now. And if approved as is, it's in the budget. It's not an ask for additional. Any questions?
I do have one, but it's not necessarily totally connected. I'm just kind of curious if like in Lynn County, when you guys take on these extra duties, is the other staff enlarged? Because there's just, you would need more staff to conduct two different sectors, right?
I guess to be comparable. So Polk County, our neighbors to the south, southwest a little bit, they have 11 people in their assessment office. Our assessment and tax office is 19. So we have an additional 8 bodies that are on the tax side. If you looked at the state metrics, we should have 4 more bodies. So really between assessment and tax, by state recommendations, we should be at 23 bodies. We're down to 18. I'm asking the budget committee overall to get us back to 19. But that's representative of having 2 divisions, if you will, jointly one office, but we do have 2 distinctly different functions. One is valuation appraisal. That's the assessor's role. Once that's done, then we turn over values to the tax side, and they have to levy taxes, bill them, collect them, distribute them, whole different process, but definitely connected. So it makes sense when you can. And counties that were able to have combined the positions, some counties just weren't able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Doreen.
Derek, you are definitely a hybrid, so I appreciate you showing that comparison to us. And it's just you're not in the norm to look at. You're like a vice president and president, and acting in both positions. So it'll be a challenge, but I appreciate your input, and we'll obviously consider it.
Thank you, Rick. Danny, you look a little more comfortable today. Not getting booted from room to room.
No. So far, I'm okay in my own house, so it's working out well.
Okay. If no other questions, I think maybe the clerk's next.
Thank you, Derek.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Hi, Derek. Thank you.
saying anything. Oh, sorry. Oh, can you hear me?
Now you're- Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I hadn't planned on presenting anything this morning, but I was listening to you earlier and I know you have questions about this position. And I understand it's very confusing to many people exactly what this position is. And I just wanted to reiterate that it is simply, what I tell people is that I am really the investment officer more than I am the treasurer. And I think that simplifies the understanding of what the position entails. In terms of how much time, well, it varies, obviously, as many jobs do, depending on whether it's reporting time or whether I'm reevaluating the portfolio at that time or looking at rewriting the credit policy. There's lots of items that go along with the position that are important to the financial health of the portfolio. And since I've been in place, I've made a number of changes already, and that we are now with a different company safe keeping our investments. And I also have put in place a team of broker dealers who I can consult when I want to buy or sell an item. And the next challenge is, and I think a very important challenge for the treasurer, is to make certain that the bonds that are in the portfolio are credit worthy. And things are changing, as you know, financially in the real world. And some of our bonds have dropped a little, so I'm monitoring those closely. So when you start having to, and you should be monitoring all of the portfolio closely, following rates, trying to understand what the Fed's going to do so that we can forecast what the income will be for the county. It's a fairly comprehensive position that takes up more time than I would have expected. And in terms of the number of hours, it can vary, but it's almost always at least 20 hours and sometimes more. Now, part of that is because I'm very thorough, and part of that is because, unfortunately, there's a lot of cleanup work to be done. As a new treasurer, there are things that I think have been neglected that need to be done. I'm a former auditor, and I bring that hat to the position, and I think it's really an important role in the position. One of the concerns that I have is that it's an elected position, and it really, as far as I'm concerned, should not be an elected position. And I know we can't change that because of the structure of the county, but there is the danger always that you could get somebody elected who has no clue what how to do the position. And it's scary. I mean, you could have, somebody who is, I don't know, a janitor somewhere run, and if they win, they would be responsible for $62 million portfolio. So that concerns me. So one of the challenges, I think, with the position is, and this isn't really for the compensation committee, but I think it should have a description that requires certain capabilities and skill and experience before you can file to run. And I also think if you're going to try to attract high quality candidates, that there should be a consideration as to how much the position pays, simply because the $30,000 a year for somebody who has the level of experience that I do, or that anyone should have, should be more commensurate with the going market rate. Because you can't expect somebody who's in the industry to take their considerable skills and experience and take a huge cut, as much as they may want to serve the county. So we were very fortunate in this election that we had 3 really great candidates. And I was not concerned about the capability of the other 2 candidates to do this job, but that is really rare. So I just want to make myself available. Do you have questions about what I do? And
You answered them for me. I was wondering what the asset value you were shepherding. So that answered my question. So,
okay, yeah.
Thank you.
And that 62 is about, at this point, that's an average. It sometimes gets a little lower, gets a little higher, but I would say 62 is probably a good representation of what it is. And the portfolio, the bond portfolio, will vary anywhere from 18 million, which is the low right now, to 25 million. I'm trying not to invest too much in new bonds because of the rate is so very, very low. And our pool right now is temporarily, it's high, but I just talked to the state treasurer's office yesterday, and it's going to drop to, it has to, there's no way they can keep it that high. But I want to be flexible enough that if the market, the bond market turns, that we're not committed in really long-term investments that are going to go down in value, and that we will be flexible enough to take advantage of the interest rates if they do turn up.
Thank you.
I have a question. What do you see as you mentioned a lot of cleanup, that there was a lot of concerns about things that were unaddressed. Can you speak to that and how you see your time allocation for what you see needs to be adjusted, repaired?
Well, I would say that there were several things that the previous treasurer did not have a policy of, even though it's required, of documenting all trades. And so part of what I need to do that is different is that I need to, and I've already put that in place, have a broker-dealer group that I can send bids out to, rather than to, even if I know, or I think I know, I want to buy a particular bond at a particular rate, I feel it's important to get bids from at least 3 brokers for that bond to make certain that I'm going to be getting the best rate that I can. And that was not done before. So that makes what is a simple trade of buying XYZ bond, instead of I just order it, I have to go out to all the people, wait for them to return and come up with the best bid, or they may have another alternate. But to include others in the process is more time consuming. The other thing is we have some low rated bonds. They're still investment quality, but we have some low rated bonds, and I am gathering information as much as I can on those bonds, and will continue to do so until they're no longer in our portfolio, because it is not a directive for the treasurer to sell bonds unless there's a compelling reason. We prefer to hold them for maturity. The other thing that I need to do is I need to reevaluate the investment policy to make certain that it conforms with what I think needs to be done, and develop systems, reports. Like, there was no real reporting mechanism, and I'm continuing to work on that, so that the commissioners have a clear explanation of what is going on in the portfolio. And that is a work in progress. It can always stand for more improvement. So as I go out and look at what they need to know, and hear from them what they need to know, and to study what is normally statutorily required, to make certain that we do that. I want to make certain, and that will take a lot of time, that everything that I do, and so therefore the county does, conforms with the state statutes. Does that help?
It does. Have we had problems in the past where we haven't met the statutes? Do you know?
Well, if we have some things that did not meet the state statutes, but and I've corrected those, but it was never a problem for the county. It was just that I came on board, and with my auditing background, I saw things that I knew would not necessarily create a problem, but that I felt we needed to bring up to speed. But I want to say that there has not been The treasurer who was here before me, Treasurer Green, did not do anything that was damaging to the county. He's just a more, he pushes the envelope more than I'm comfortable doing. Plus, I don't think that as treasurer, it is my role to push the envelope. The number one requirement is that we preserve capital. And we have.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys get back to talking to other people. I'm available if you need me. If not, I'll still be here. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Bransell.
You're most welcome.
Good morning.
Morning,
Good
Brian.
morning.
How are you,
Good
kids?
morning.
So, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know that you've got lots to do today, but if you could, I'd like to have a bit of a conversation. If the clerk's position were a role in your office, what would you look for as a metric for determining how well your employee did last year?
You cut out on the very first start of that sentence. Would you just ask that again real quick?
You bet. If the clerk's position were a role in your company and you were to determine how well your employee did in their role last year, what metrics would you use to evaluate their progress, their work, their performance?
One that comes right off the top of my head would be customer satisfaction. Limited errors in the job.
I would agree with error rate on the recording side is so very important. And speed, timely handling of documentation on the recording side.
Yeah, efficiency, problem solving, issues within the office itself, how well they were handled, and
Retention of
Yep.
employees underneath you.
Yes, that's a great one.
And then being personal, how do you think I'm doing?
You're off the charts, Chief.
Oh, which side?
The fun, good side. I think you.
Unfortunately, those charts go all.
We just can't give you that much credit for that. It's not a dollar amount, but it's appreciated.
Perfect. I would like to echo some of the assessor's comments, rolling back to the counties that we compare on this salary schedule are great comparisons for the political positions, those making political decisions. They're great comparisons for the commissioners. Not so great for those of us in administrative tasks, the assessor tax collector, the clerk's office. I would dare say even the sheriff's office is a dangerous comparison, just because some of our compensation really needs to be compared with those similar roles in neighboring counties. But like Ken will pipe up and say, super difficult to compare any function in Yamhill County with those in Washington County or Multnomah County because their structure is so different. There is no county clerk in either Washington County or Multnomah County. So you can't go pluck that role out of the Washington County or Multnomah County's salary table and say, hey, this is what this person makes, because they're a different structure. However, if you were to take the election supervisor or the recording supervisor in either of those two, and you try to lure, like the treasurer was just saying, if you try to attract those people, those best and brightest to this role, you're looking in the $104,000 to $125,000 a year price tag to lure those same experienced people. And I bring that up because I am in the third term and final term allowed under Yamhill County statutes. We, as a county, need to start looking for our next county clerk. Now is the time that we need to either groom from within, like you were just mentioning. Retention is a big key to the success of any organization, and grooming for the future and succession planning. It's one of those things that we really need to start thinking about. Yamhill County is the only county in Oregon that has term limits, and we're bumping up against those again with this office. So it's one of those things that we need to start thinking about. And I would like to correct a few things that were said a little bit earlier. The compensation committee did not award me an increase last year. I did ask for an increase last year. I was not granted an increase last year. So I am currently taking the 79,000 and change as I did the year before. It's been a couple of years since I did not take the entire allotment that was granted the office. So that was an old note, unfortunately perpetuated. It's been a while. This budget year, I've actually asked for a 2% increase, and that's what's included in my budget proposal. Probably much lower than what I should have asked for. What I should have asked for would get us somewhere similar to our neighboring counties, and then just not accepted the entire amount. Basically, because we really need to start thinking as a county of how to attract that next best and brightest. One thing that I can say about this group of people that I'm blessed to work with each day is they are excellent customer service people at heart. Yamhill County is blessed with some people that have been here for a very long time. We've got tenured employees that have been in this office for 18, 20, and 30 years. And that's our frontline full-time staff. Election board workers we have as temporary staff, some of who have also been here for 20, 25, and 30 years. So it's a great place to work and work with other great people. We are not yet error-free, but we do strive to be error-free. We are getting there on the election side, recording side. We strive to do that with each and every document. One of the things that I did when I first got here back in 2013 was bring in e-recording. And that has taken our recording times down from a day or more to 7 minutes or less. So our average document today is being recorded in somewhere between 6 and 7 minutes. And that's a significant advantage for banks and and property owners as well. So there are many things that we've been trying to do, and we try to keep that ball more moving forward. And if you know anything about me and my family, no one in my family is ready to sit on their laurels. We will continue to strive to perfect and move forward and even be better next year. 2020 was a really strange year, and as long as there's no insurance providers, oh wait a minute, there is an insurance provider here. So plug your ears. Many of the things that we've done in the last, thank you. We've had family members help do those things around this building and in our drop boxes to make this a better place for our citizens and our voters. My wife and I and my brother dug the pad and did actually the concrete pouring for the new drop box that's outside our front door. Sandra and I are the ones that actually go around and clean up our drop boxes once or twice every year, and we do that as a bonus and an added value to our citizens. When we got here, the drop boxes were in sorry shape, and today you go out to your drop box and they're going to see a bright new shiny drop box in each of the towns, at least one in every town in Yamhill County. So we've made some great improvements and trying to keep things moving forward better and better every year. But back to what your guys are here for, I'm only asking for a 2% increase this year. Questions?
And I'll just, I first want to apologize for the data. I looked it up really quickly and Brian is correct. The last salary increase was not approved last year. That was in 2019.
Thank you for clearing that up, and thank you for the e-filing. As a banker, I love it.
Thank you. And this is what you had before I got here. So.
Yeah, those are pretty.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe the next person that's going to be joining us is the sheriff, and I was just going to, oh, I see he's just joined.
Yep.
He's traveling, so he's
trying to do it hands-free without the video. You guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
All
are.
right, perfect. So I don't have much to say, just like the other officials. I came to Yamhill County in 1999 and I've never left. I love this area. I love the people I serve.
And that's it. That's it.
and we lost him.
Since I'm still here, I'll pretend like I'm the sheriff. And while he's trying to struggle, I would like to compliment him. I mean, I hope he's back soon and will beat me up later. But one thing I forgot to mention is when we were struggling with the early days of the pandemic last year, he and his team reached out to us and provided us many different flexible options. And when the worst case thing happened last year, just as we started getting thousands and thousands of ballots in our room, the sheriff and his team were here on our doorstep to personally supervise our building while we were trying to get our security system back up. So sheriff is back on, so I'll let you guys get back to it.
Sorry, guys. Gotta love technology. I think I'm back.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I would just want to make sure you guys are aware and understand that law enforcement's been under a pretty heavy microscope the last year. I believe Yamhill County has the best law enforcement available in the state. We have made some very important adjustments in our office, not only just with compensation, but also with policy and procedures that have attracted some very good quality candidates who want to serve the citizens of Yamhill County, live here, raise a family. And I think it's a huge benefit to everyone. And the statute's pretty clear on salary, so it makes it pretty easy for the compensation committee. The only thing I would note, which I know has been discussed a couple times previously, I'm never one that comes to the compensation committee asking for anything or any type of adjustments to my salary, because I feel that the compensation's very sufficient for the job I do. It is just a little awkward at times when I'm doing the job that I'm doing with my captains making almost as much money as I do, and just slightly under me. So it's been a topic that's been brought up a couple times. It's not a big issue that I have raised in the past. And I just say that just for succession planning and other items along that. So I will let you guys answer or ask me any questions that you have, and then I'll let you go.
I don't have a lot. I don't have any questions. I do have to say, I think you guys do an excellent job. I think about you guys a lot in this climate, and when I hear about, you know, different scenarios happening in the United States and around, and you guys have a great reputation. And every time I encounter somebody within the office, I'm impressed with them. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
I would ditto what Denny just said. Very proud of our law enforcement, and know that we support you all the way.
Thank you.
I concur too. Wonderful people.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your time.
And I'm looking really quickly and I'm not seeing, and for some reason, I thought Brad, I couldn't find if he sent me an email or if he may have mentioned it during his presentation. He may be in court this morning and not available to attend, but I'm checking the attendee list one more time. Or if Brad, if you're watching and you want to join. All right. I think that's what we had for public comment. Oh, he said he could be pulled out of court if needed. Thank you, Jennifer. Sent me a message. Did you have any questions? Did the committee want to talk to the DA?
Okay.
I did not have any.
All
I didn't
right.
have anything in particular. I'd be interested to hear his thoughts just in general, but I don't see any need to call him out of court. And also, I suppose, I guess I want to know if it is his last term, if that piece is correct or.
Yeah, and that might be something you could probably reach out to Brad directly and ask him about. I don't know where he's at. In fact, I'm not even sure off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember the timing on when he started. He may have just started a new term in January. So, and I don't have any receipt of any requests. And I see Brian has raised his hand, said if you want to know where he's at, ask the clerk. So Carrie, maybe we can have Brian rejoin.
Sorry, the funny transition there with Zoom, it bounces me out a little second. It is often a question that people have is judges and DAs, are they term limited like the rest of Yamhill County's elected officials? And they are not term limited in the normal sense. They are state employees primarily, not county employees. It's just the county-wide elected officials that are term limited in Oregon, in Yamhill County. District attorneys and judges cannot run after they've turned a particular age. So it's not a term limit in a term limited sense. They are limited by age. So like Ken was just referencing, it is a personal decision from Brad if he decides to run again or not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And the other part that I would just add is I didn't see any, Brad didn't send any written requests as part of his budget, and I can confirm. I'm looking up to see if he had in fact made any modifications to his budget. No, it appears he budgeted exactly what he's currently receiving right now as far as the stipend. So there wasn't anything included in the budget that represents that he was going to be coming forward with an increase. So.
Okay.
Okay, so Chair, this is at the point of on the agenda deliberation and putting together recommendations.
Okay. Well, let's do just that. Is everyone okay to start with the commissioner page?
Yep.
Yes.
Does anybody have any initial thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts. Just over the entire leadership of Yamhill County, I find myself in this position each year. It's conflicted because I know I'm here as a representative of the community to kind of oversee where the hard-earned tax dollars go to. But as an employer, I'm also in a position of looking at positions who do an excellent job, and each year I'm really impressed, and it's actually encouraging to see how well the leadership in Yamhill County really is. And just in my role in my career job, I deal with a lot of counties and cities, and very rarely do I come away impressed. So it's encouraging to see. And I know as an employer, it's hard to find good employees right now. I think everybody on this panel, and it's hard to find quality people like this. So I'm conflicted with, retention and quality of life and the conservativeness that's inside me as a representative of the taxpayers. So I guess to all the leadership that spoke today and is represented here, I just think I was impressed with everybody. And yeah, let's go through them. To the commissioners, I feel like none of them really asked for a raise, and I think I'm comfortable with where it's at. Unless someone has something else.
Well, although they've indicated to a great degree that they would probably, that they're satisfied with the pay and that they might even decline, Lindsay and Mary in particular. At the same time, there was no increase from the year before. And so I'm struggling with what should the job pay, irregardless of who's holding the position, like as budgeted going forward. Those things will change. Who's in that position will change. Same situation with Mr. Barry, where if indeed it says last year, there's a level of experience that goes with people that have held the position, and yet the question is really what should the position pay at the same time. So those two things are interesting things to think through.
I'm struggling too. I want to recognize the commissioners for what they are doing for our county. The salary is not commensurate with what they are doing compared to other counties. I mean, there's just not any comparison that really, we're not even close in some. So I think last year, I think Denny and I and Lindsay were talking about the economy. We were talking about some concerns about revenue streams going forward, which made us look at these as a hold. And I think a lot of businesses were looking at a hold about a year ago at this time. But I would probably be in favor of giving them a raise. And if they want to decline it or push it off to a charity, they could. So I'm kind of in between. And I would probably be looking at anywhere from 3 to 4% on that. So I'll just throw that out to get the conversation going. But we do have to have these jobs attractive to other potential high caliber people that this would be worthy of their time. So
That's true.
Well, I would be open to that as well. I agree with both your guys' comments on it. You're right. It is not just right now, it's who's to come and attracting those quality employees, which are hard, or not employees, officials, or anybody that would run for any of these positions. Finding the people of quality, you need to, compensation needs to be reflected.
It's true. There's people who wanted to go into this position. They may well be taking pay cuts just to consider serving the county and the public.
Yep.
So do we have a quick overview of what percentage increases there have been? And we could do the math real fast. I have a very loud old school calculator over here.
So do I. Let's see.
One of these days I'll head into the future, but not yet.
Wow, that's big. And Ken, not that this is a critical question, but what is the county employees overall receiving in the budget? I know it looked like 3%. Is that kind of around the block, around the horn here? We're getting about 3.
That is correct. And like Derek was sharing the AFSCME contract as an example, it can vary. We have 5 collective bargaining agreements. So we have 5 unions within the county. So sometimes it's really difficult because there's 5 different compensation packages included with, but just looking at the largest union, AFSCME, what they have coming up effective July 1 is a 2% COLA plus a 1% market increase. So a total of 3%.
I feel like
It would seem reasonable to at least keep some pace.
I would agree.
So if I can move for a 3% and start out there, and if there's disagreements up or down, we can move from there, but let's just get something started here. So I make a motion to increase the commissioner's salary by 3%.
I would second that. So discussion wise, does everybody feel that is, I think that's the minimum. So is that enough to keep pace, as we have really not done that in the years? I mean, is there a jump, understanding that some of them may not take it, but back to Dorian's comment of, whether they take it or whether they don't, what is the realistic compensation for a position like that?
3.5% should put us at just barely over 81,000. 3.5 does.
Okay.
I guess I'm a little more in favor of 3.5.
Oh,
Or you want me to?
I'll withdraw my motion and Doreen, if you want to make the motion, then
I'd like to move for an increase for the commissioners of 3.5%.
second.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and down to the assessor. His presentation, his discussion about the other county that has tax collector duties.
Right.
It's a very interesting disparity. So, I mean, in view of Lynn County, it's
Well,
a very small population difference.
the hybrids are always very difficult because you could look at this saying he's doing two jobs, but he probably has staff there to help him more maybe. But at the same time, I think he is falling behind dramatically for the size of our county.
Yeah, and the other thing that's difficult, there's only one other like comparison for us to draw on at the moment, whereas you can't average much with this one. There's one other comparison.
Right.
Um,
But again, the comparison is doing just they're not doing the tax collection. That's
right, not the other ones. The only one that is Lynn County is the only actual comparison where they're doing both. But then you only have the one to draw on.
Right.
Whereas you can't average out several counties or get a better feel for that. So that's a little bit tougher, but it's a pretty big difference.
It is.
So the 2% that he's requesting, unless I did this wrong, it brings us to 96,900.
Oh, just to clarify, the assessor's request was for 10%.
Oh, 10. I heard 2. And I was a little surprised by that, actually.
Thank you, Ken.
So that would bring him to 104,500. 10% would. Where did I get the 2? No, now I'm remembering the chart with the ASME. Okay, it's all coming back to me now.